Life is an adventure.
It's full of highs and lows, with many twists and turns along the way.
Life is a mystery. Some things are hard to understand, whilst other parts can take your breath away.
We want to welcome you on a journey of discovery to find out what this life is really all about.
Welcome to Nua Origins.
For a while there, it seemed like every big movie release was some comic book hero's origin story. We are totally fascinated by stories that go back to the beginning of a hero's life and answer the question, how did this person become who they are? And the same is true of all of us. Not that we all have a secret identity or fight crime, but we all have an origin story that helps explain who we are.
We also have different faith origins. For me, I grew up in a home where God was really important to my family. But if I'm being honest, I didn't see how God had much to do with my everyday life. I knew deep down that God was real, but more of an out there kind of thing. I never knew that God wanted to connect with me.
Throughout these 8 sessions, we want to be open and honest, explaining the origins of our own faith journeys and how a relationship with God became the foundation of our lives. But first, we want to discuss one of the most frequently asked questions when it comes to faith. How can I know that God exists?
We live in a world today where it seems that you have to choose to believe in God or believe that science has all the answers. But it's just not that simple. As in, science has tons of answers, and it gives us the understanding of how things work, like our bodies, the solar system, our weather. But we're still left with questions. Questions I believe only our faith can answer. Questions like, why am I here? What does it mean? Who's behind all this? You see, if you stop thinking of God and science as rivals, you can allow science to show you how incredible the universe is, and at the same time believe that a powerful designer is behind it. Let me explain. Take the closest thing to you. Well, that's you. You are incredibly detailed, and recent scientific discoveries about our bodies will blow your mind. The reason why you can kick a ball, wink at a friend, or even why your knee stops bleeding after a bad fall is because messages are being sent to and from your brain along nerves at over 300 kilometers an hour. Science also teaches us that if you were to unravel all the DNA in your body, that it would stretch 10 billion miles. That's like traveling from Earth to Pluto and back again. Now, this one might gross you out, but science has also discovered that right now there is more bacteria in your mouth than there are people alive today.
Ew.
So enjoy your next kiss, or your first.
Now, take a look at something much bigger than you. Our planet is just as detailed as you are. We travel at a very specific speed and distance around the sun, giving us day and night. Our planet also has a precise tilt, giving us seasons. The exact size of our atmosphere allows us to breathe, and the right force of gravity keeps our feet on the ground. We learn all of this from science, which further tells us that if just one of these mechanisms were to change, even just a tiny bit, the whole system would break down, and we could no longer survive.
So I think all these details, whether microscopic, like our DNA, or massive, like our planet, point to the existence of an incredible, creative, and powerful God. The Bible spoke of this detail long before the first scientific discovery. There's a quote from a very old Bible book called Job that says, "When the ocean was born, I set its boundaries. Your powerful waves stop here. They can go no further." The psalmist also said, "You made it all, with wisdom at your side, made earth overflow with your wonderful creations. Oh, look, the deep, wide sea, brimming with fish past counting."
Some suggest that we just got lucky and our world accidentally came to be. But these amazing scientific facts lead me to believe that God exists and his fingerprints are everywhere for us to see. We can discover a loving God who had all of this in mind, including me and including you.
Each year, between 5 and 10 million people visit Musée du Louvre. Musée du Louvre is the world's largest art museum and a historical monument in Paris. It houses over 38,000 historical objects that date from ancient history to the 21st century. And they are exhibited over an area of 72,000 square meters. That's like 13 football fields.
Wow!
But of these 38,000 objects, there's one item above all others that everyone comes to see, the Mona Lisa. Mona is a half-length portrait painting by the Italian Renaissance artist Leonardo da Vinci that has been described as the best known and the most written about work of art in the world. Students from every corner of the globe spend hours studying every brushstroke and line. Millions marvel at her smile and ponder the origins of Mona. And although there are several billion copies in the world, nothing compares to seeing the real deal. Mona Lisa is the masterpiece of masterpieces in the Louvre Museum.
Now imagine that the world around us is God's museum. God is displaying all of his incredible works of art. The mountains, the planets, the stars. Well, the masterpiece at the center of all these masterpieces is you. It's you and it's me. The Bible says that we are God's masterpiece. If we look at the story of God's creation of the world from the first book of the Bible, Genesis, we see that for every act of creation, God announced that it was good. But it's only after God creates human beings that he says that it's very good. It's as if God was saying that creation was now complete. If we come to the conclusion that this world is not the result of random chance, but the act of a loving creator, then you'll begin to see that the beauty and goodness around us is God's expression of love for us.
Think of it this way, we're the headline act of God's creation. In Genesis 1 it says, "Let us make people in our image." These little words, us and our, are extremely important because they show us who God is. Because God is 3 in 1, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, we know that God is relational. This relational God desires to love us and to know us intimately. And this is what it means to be made in God's image. Our desire for love, acceptance, belonging, and our potential to do incredible good in this world all reflects the God who made us. We are not pre-programmed machines, but we are free to live and make decisions. And above all other created things, we are uniquely valuable to God.
One of the main differences between us and all other life is the way that we relate to God and to the people around us. God did not create us and then abandon us. Instead, he invites us to live in relationship with him. One of my favorite parts of the Bible, from a book called the Psalms, helps us to understand this. In Psalm 139, the writer says, "O Lord, you have examined my heart, and you know everything about me." That's right, everything. Now that might scare you, but the writer is going to great lengths to show just how much God cares about us and how much he's interested in us, despite the parts you don't want him to see. Later it says, "You made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit me together in my mother's womb. I thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous." I love this because it affirms how unique every individual is to God. He didn't just put us together on some cold assembly line. Instead, he purposely wove us together with his own hands. Every personality quirk, every talent, every little detail was gifted to us by our loving Maker. And what about these words? It says, "How precious are your thoughts about me. O God, they cannot be numbered."
about it this way. The same God who put the galaxies in the sky, who flung the planets into orbit, who filled the untamed oceans and crafted the tallest mountains, is thinking about you, his masterpiece.
Starting school as a teenager was a really tough time for me. I fell into the well-known trap of comparing myself to others. I was really struggling with who I was, focusing too much on how I wanted to fit in. I found myself wishing to be stronger, better looking, someone who could make people laugh. When I was by myself or trying to sleep at night, I felt there was something wrong with me, like I wasn't good enough. Unfortunately, I was bullied, and there was one specific person who seemed to be on a mission to make me feel as worthless as possible. His words hurt me deeply, and I began to believe the lies. I thought changing the things I didn't like about myself would cause people to like me, and then I would like myself. Instead, the opposite happened. The more I changed myself, the less I liked the person I was becoming. I wasn't being me, and people saw right through it. Now that I'm older and working with young people, I see so many struggling the same way that I did. And it doesn't have to be this way. In fact, that's the reason I chose to work with young people. I want to share the same hope that brought me out of my darkness. Our instinct can be an amazing thing. However, I found that I couldn't always trust it when it came to my self-image. We always hear, listen to your instincts, follow your heart, go with your gut. And that is good advice when it's backed up with the input of our parents or our friends. When I was alone, I started to feel like there was something wrong with me. And in believing that lie, I often lost sight of who I really was. I'm made in the image of God, and that truth gives me hope. I have been intricately knit together by a loving, caring, creative God. His words proclaim that I am uniquely me, and I constantly need to remind myself of that. So it came down to which voice do I listen to? Choosing to believe the truth rather than my own negative feelings has made the biggest difference in my life. I wish I could go back in time and tell the 14-year-old version of myself to stop wishing you were someone else. I wish I could undo the nights I spent staring into the mirror, willing the reflection to change. I would tell myself, stop listening to the negative voice in my ear. Because there's another voice, the voice of truth, the voice of my maker. God made me, me. The world needs me just as I am, not some cheap replica, the original, the masterpiece.
We started this journey by asking some of the biggest questions of them all, like why are we here and who's behind it? We've whizzed around Pluto, flown close to the sun, we even had a pit stop in France. And we also heard the difference that faith in a loving creator can have, as Eric shared his story. But this is just the beginning. We've so many more places to visit, more life-changing stories to hear, and more questions to be asked.
We want you to know that this is a safe place to be yourself and to speak honestly. You may have questions and struggle with belief, and that's okay. We just hope that you'll enter into this discussion. I once was at a stage in my life where I thought all this faith stuff was boring. But to my great surprise, I have discovered that I have been made by someone who loves me for me, not simply just to exist, but made on purpose, made for more.